Yeah. So hello everyone. Welcome to the Pega learning tutorials. So today's session, Mastering Pega Enterprise Application, will cover some advanced concept that we have previously shared with you, right? So we will also revisit the course duration and process details. And I'm pleased to introduce our trainer for this course, Mr. Gaurav Sharma. He's a principal architect with over 12 years of expertise in enterprise and system architecture and specializing in delivering innovative Pega solutions. And Gaurav is proficient in Pega BPM, database management, and also workflow integration project management. And he will provide the overview of the course and he will share more information about it. At the end of the session, we will have a quick Q&A segment where Gaurav will address any doubts or any clarifications you may have. And let's give a warm welcome to Gaurav. Gaurav, you can start now.
Thanks, Rakesh. Hi all. As Rakesh has shared about me, I'll not take much more on this. Let's start our learning. So, in this course, we will talk about the advanced concepts. This course will be around 60 hours. Uh, we will I'll walk you through about from the introduction to architecture design, case type design with advanced case type management, data modeling. We'll talk about in the integration of the connect and services and securities. We'll touch base about the authentication services. We will also set up our DevOps CI/CD pipeline using Pega Deployment Manager. We will also talk about the performance and troubleshooting things. We will talk about decisioning management, which covers from declare expressions to decision table and decision tree, and some basic AI/ML, which is currently like majority of the projects wants people to know about Gen AIs and those things. So we'll talk about what are those, how you can use them in platform using predictive studio through predictive studio. We'll do all this with one project. There'll be few more exercises apart from the entire project we will do to learn about some of the concepts. So I'll go through them while I'll be teaching about the topics. Some may be related to case management, some may be as part of data modeling, some may be in the integration aspects, because not everything can be covered as part of a single project to learn about it. So there may be some additional separate exercise to do on. With this, for today's topic, we will just go through about what is Pega, its logical architecture, Pega database, application development approaches, high level about enterprise class structure, high level about Pega platform application case types and Q&A. For today's session, we'll not talk about the application building. We'll start it from tomorrow, and then from there, we will take forward to complete it. Another thing to note, like we will try to build this application using Constellation. So you'll get to know about what is Constellation, its approaches, and what you need to think about when you're doing it in Constellation versus traditional UI. So there are a few caveats and what is the benefit of doing in Constellation and what is the alternate way of doing in traditional UI. We'll talk about them in the later lectures. So yeah, we begin. So we are all learning here what's Pega. So Pega is all about, it's a like low code platform, which is more focused on case and process centric applications. It is a platform which automates, integrates, and improve the strategic front end and the back end office applications, unifying customer engagement with business objectives. The main aspects of, so if you see from the picture, you will understand about it, but I'll go through in this and then I'll explain you about how in the picture it represents about Pega in its own. Through Pega, you can build a BPM application. You can do intelligent automation, which is a straight through processes. With Pega, you can do a robotic process automation, which is a separate component, which is there. In normal platform, you can do case management. You can do analytics-driven decision management. You can build a mobile app with Pega. You can do a social collaboration in Pega, so which is with Pulse and other digital messaging services you can do. So in its landscape, Pega as a platform provides you a reusable architecture with line. So so let's understand from this picture how it goes. Pega tries to follow how with Java is. So like with Java, we talked about build one, deploy anywhere and run. Pega do follows that ideology and things in it because Pega itself is a Java-based application. So when this tells about run anywhere, so this is a very simple way of telling about like when you build a Pega application, you can run it on-prem on your environment, you can run it on Pega Cloud, you can run it on any other cloud vendors. So because while building a Pega application, you have that luxury of building and supporting it. It's different from Salesforce and other BPM tools, which is a very confined and allow you to only run on their own net environments. Pega has that capability that allows you, like after the application is built, if you set the platform correctly, you can run it on any hardware. Which brings about how you design. So within Pega, you have an option of reusable architecture and live data management. We'll talk about when you're building an application, what is reusable architecture is, and what is live data management with Pega design. So it's just a design principle of showing how the data management happens. Pega supports both the spectrum of the application, which is one on the decisioning side, another on the automation side. So that means you can build a workflow-driven application, or you can just build an automation-based system just with case management with RPA to do like some part within the Pega, some part outside Pega. All of this is done within a low-code environment, which is very simple. And Pega builds a unified application, which is one of the key aspects that you build once and you are leveraging it on any of the space. Either you are on the web application, mobile application, web embeds, or normal digital messaging, send as an email or bots or any other integration or even as a CSR-based application, like anything. So it provides you a total digital experience when you're building the application and connecting to the channels. It's a single platform to do it. Just more understanding about Pega. It's an enterprise application, and Pega platform is an IDE. Understand that it's an IDE allowing you to build an application. It itself doesn't do anything. It provides you an environment where you build the application using the Pega provided jars and libraries. So it's a mixture of an IDE as well as a framework in its core to support the developers to build a enterprise-based application. The architecture of Pega has a unified architecture that allows you to store requirements, policies, process artifacts, and user interface in a single place. This is a main thing about Pega, that the design of Pega allows you to link the requirements. You can define your policies and store within the platform, within the ID. You can define and process, you can create process and stores processes. These are all documentation aspects. You build the UI, and that is also stored as part of the Pega in its core. That's in the database when you build UI interface. And that's how the Pega architecture has been defined. The main core features and the services which Pega provides, it's just part of platform, which is case management. You can use it as a case management system. You can use it as a business rule service system. You can use it as business process management service. You can use it as business activity monitoring. The business activity monitoring is very confined only to Pega. So example is like you all have experience. So you have majority of them, you might be working with Pega as a case management system. You can even use as business rule service. If you have heard about BRE, Pega do act as a BRE, which is you just use business rules within Pega and everything else run outside Pega. So there are few applications where Pega is just one part of the system. All the rules and computation works in Pega, and then everything goes outside. So policy making, there in Australia and in US, there are applications, government organizations, which just uses Pega to do a policy management, where they pass many parameters. A policy is run against many rules and other things. It determines what type of subsidy I need to give it to the particular person. That's where the rules engine comes into, where Pega is just used as a rule engine. So they have a UI separately outside Pega. The rules They pass the parameter, rules runs, it runs declare expressions, it does collections, it does many things. At the end, it gives you just an output, and then it is again viewed at the another layer. So that's where the BRE systems is all about. Pega also provides the process management service. So process management service is a subset of case management. You, if you have worked before 7.x, that's where Pega used to work as a case like process management system. That means you are only creating a work objects and does not have a case lifecycle. Just straight work objects. Just create a work object, perform it, close it. And there are still applications which uses just Pega as a process management system, not as a case management. So Pega do supports process management still. There is a way of doing it. If you have 6.x version, if you have seen, you may know about it. You can still do it in 7 and Infinity too, but Pega has moved majorly towards case management, and so you see majority of application in the case management ecosystem. But if you want to build just as a process management, the class is work-object-. So just for your reference. So if you create a class, your own work class on top of work-object-, that means you are just doing a work process management system. The business activity monitoring. So Pega provides you, so you can monitor how your Pega application is working. You do not need any third-party solutions to monitor your Pega application. It's good you can use that, but Pega 2 in its native supports that. So you have Admin Studio where you can monitor and see how is your application behaving. You have PDC to monitor your application. So these are all Pega applications tightly coupled to do just Pega like monitoring of its service. You can still leverage any third-party tools to do monitoring of your system, but Pega and its core do have all those capabilities to do that. Just again a reference to understand how Pega pictures itself and how it works. So Pega in its core, which is the platform system, can support or do these all boxes which is around it. It can be just used as a case management, business process management, business rules engine. It allows you to build UI within Pega, user interface, embedded systems. You can build Pega as a framework for industry solutions, straightforward solutions which you can build on top of it as a framework. It do allows cloud solutioning. You can build or leverage Pega cloud-based solution to build your application on top of it. So it's cloud. It's not purely cloud native, but it supports majority of the cloud technologies in its core system. Technology management, Pega is evolving and has been changing itself with corresponding to the technology changes. So as part of technology management is more aligned to how it has impacted or how it has absorbed the new technologies. So now currently Pega supports React, Angular, Vue, even web embeds web. In the Java space also, like they have upgraded the systems to support Java 17 now, and they are making changes to accommodate new type of storage systems, be it Kafka or other things. That's so it is changing in its terms about how new technologies comes and how it is incorporated into Pega. It do allows you to do analysis. It do have a standalone CRM solution in it. So Pega can do anything or can complement to that. So they have, these are the things where you can use Pega. If you are building any of these solutions, Pega is one of such option to do that. History of Pega. So this is something, if you understand, this is something which is, I want to share for people to understand how Pega has changed, how it evolved in its system, and how it has made people to understand and absorb the things, and with that how you need to do. So something is very generic, but if you understand those things, you will understand the essence how Pega has changed and how you can stay with this for a longer period and understand that it's not going away. There are things which is coming, and there are other tools which can do things, but Pega is the leading product in it. Its evaluation started. So journey of Pega started with 4.x. Pega used to be a C++ application, then it became Pega as a Java application in 4.x. To 6.x, Pega used to do only 3 major things, which is it was just a BRE system. You can do DCO, process management, and DM. The decisioning management concept at 4 to 6 was very limited, decision table tree, and were the main things. Then came a very big change in the Pega design and ecosystem itself, which is 7 and beyond, which was a major change where they adopted case management in its core feature, brought the concept of personas, uh, and then added all the new, keeping all the existing system. So you can still build applications just as rule engines, even in 7. You can do DCO. The DCO has now again changed itself, but you can still, like in 7x and 8.x now also, if you start a new projects and you talk about with people who have past experience building Pega applications, they will talk about how they do a DCO based design, like business review sessions, and capture all these requirements in Pega and store it so that it becomes easy for the developers to start building it. The DCO aspects is now trying to move away from Pega, and Pega brought a new component called blueprints, so which is taking away the DCO outside of Pega and allowing people to talk with business stakeholders in much more new way, because it allows you to integrate with GenAI. You can capture more better informations. You can refine it much faster. You're not still in the system. So because earlier DCO was very part of the system, so it was making BAs to understand how Pega works and putting all those information in it. Taking it away gives the benefit that you can build the system outside. As you know, that blueprint then can be imported into a Pega, and that works. So that importing it into Pega and doing it is nothing but how DCO works. So when you import a blueprint, you will see it will create a skeleton of the application data. It will put these skeleton of the case workflows, and the skeleton has been created, which is what DCO used to do earlier. So then business process management is still the main thing. In the case management, you create business process. It has enhanced the decision management capabilities within platform. So earlier, just from the normal decisioning management of decision table trees, now you can do more complex operations tools. Some of them which were any earlier part of a separate component, now it's been added in the product. So as part of your predictive studios, and with predictive studio, and there's something called decision strategies. You do have few more components added in the platform. You can do some stuff of decisioning management within your Pega case management solution. So how it changed? It was from an intuitive design tool to capture business objectives. What does Pega does? It just do automatic code generation of your code, so you don't need to do a full native programming. Industry-specific solutions and frameworks are available for banking and BOI accelerations. The application which we build with Pega are enterprise-level scalable. Pega follows standard-based user interface, and your Pega application can integrate with other business platforms such as CRM and other system solutions. So yeah, so its evaluation is part of this. That brings us to the main aspect about how Pega application works. Because I do understand you all have experience, I will not go to the basics of Pega. We'll understand about how the logical architecture, then the application architecture, and go beyond to it. So Pega logical architecture. Pega is a thin client Java constructed application. This is something you need to understand, because when you are moving from 3 to 5 years experience, this is something where you will be working not just on Pega, but the people would like you to know about how the Pega application works. And I would like you all to go and study after this architecture, how a Java web application is deployed, which is little different from Pega, but you need to know how Java web application is deployed. Because once you understand that, you can then relate how Pega application is deployed, how it makes easier, but you still need to know about how that deployment works. Because when you are actually deploying and working in an enterprise layer, there will be nuances you will be touching. Over years, if you have not worked on those components, you will not get chance. And later, when you are in the early 7 or 8 years of experience, people will be looking that you should know about these basic things. So what are those things? I will explain you about. So Pega follow a three. Pega is a thin client application. So there is thin and a thick client application in Java based. Understand what is that? I just give you a point. Pega follows a thin client based approach. It follows a three-tier architecture. That means there is a total segregation of data application and a client. Uh, at the data layer, Pega follows the relational database as of now. In future, it may support other non-relational database for its own schema. That is where currently two Pega supports non-relational database schema. Two primarily it supports MongoDB and Cassandra to NoSQL databases at its core, but not for case management. So that's the thing. For case management, as of now, it only supports the relational database. In that, Oracle DB2 Postgres MySQL Server is the main thing. There is a path they are moving away from DB2, but these things will be something you can go and read about in the support guides, what it is supporting and what it is not. But in its core, currently, its Pega is a relational database system. Sorry. Yeah. As part of non-relational database system, as I mentioned, Pega supports MongoDB. So if you use CRM, you want to do chat, you can use Mongo. Mongo jars are available as part of CRM. If you are using decisioning management, there's a Cassandra. So Cassandra jar is available. So these are the two non-SQL database Pega supports, but very specific to scenarios. As part of CRM, chat management, you can use Mongo. And if you're using decisioning management, either in platform or CDH, then you can use Cassandra. Apart from the relational database. On top of it, at the application layer, Pega used to support EAR or VAR. Now at cloud, with Infinity, they are only going to support VAR. EAR is getting deprecated. The approach is moving away. What does this mean? This means two things. That in future, Pega will not be supporting WebLogic and WebSphere for EAR. So generally, as an enterprise application, people with using WebLogic or WebSphere, they used to deploy Pega as an EAR. Whereas for JBoss and Tomcat, for Tomcat, it's always VAR. For JBoss, it was an option to use VAR or EAR, but EAR is getting not supported now with Pega 24.2. But you should still need to know what is EAR because there is still Connect Java, which is part of Pega. So if you don't know, read about what is EAR, but for high level, EAR means Java beans plus VAR. So everything which is part of VAR plus EJB part, which is like enterprise beans. So you have beans, files, native Java files plus VAR file is what EAR is all about. Now Pega will not support EAR, but you still can do stuff which EAR used to do in a different way, which is via Connect Java. Then comes the third layer, which is the client layer. So client layer, that means the browser where we see the Dev Studio, where we actually works. So it provides the three aspects of it. One for us as a developer and an administration, which is Designer Studio, Dev Studio, Admin Studio, like that, those portals. Then for the end users, which is the user portals or the mashups for the end users to see. Then comes the phones or tablet, which is channel specific. You can build a mobile app altogether. You can build a hybrid app. You can build a web app, which is a web embed and embedded into another websites. These all options is nothing but the client layer of the logical architecture. When you are building your in the application, you have a node type. This is how you define your nodes. We'll talk about when we are discussing about like administration side, what each does and how do you define about it. So search node to do the search. Web user is for us and users to work on. So when you define a node of the web user, that's where you access the Pega as a user portal. Bix is used for Bix operations. Background processing is defined for background processing. There is something special called universal. If you define a node as universal, it will act as everything, which means it also brings Cassandra the data, real data stream and other things. So generally, you should not define a node with type universal. You should always define a node to do a specific thing. And so you should always define them as with the node type specific to like search and web user or web user with Wix and other things. So there is a config JVM argument which you pass for your particular node, which is defined on for your particular deployment. So you define what is the time. That's why it is like marked for the web service part. There are two other things which we have not touched. You generally will not initially don't get exposure to it, but understand. So when you set up if you have personal editions, how does the database gets concept? So you have a JDBC connection pools. So that's how a Java application talk with the database, which is via JDBC connections. This configuration is done as part of your application server, where you define your database connection, the schema references, username and password. On top of it, you again see one more thing, which is load balancer, proxy, HTTP servers. We will not touch this in our details, but I'll give you a high level. So generally in your production applications, you do not have only one node. When we talk about one node, that means one physical machine. You may have 10 to 15 machines. So on top of your machines, how do you manage the load is done by load balancer. You never exposed your native machine to the outside systems. And to do this, either you use a proxy server or an HTTP server. That provides one layer of security on your application server to make your end clients to access your system. So that's how do you do the configuration, which is all part of your application server configuration. So you define the JDBC, you define the load balancer, proxy, or HTTP servers, which brings us to the more basic understanding about it. I'll not go through about this. I already explained like what is client tier, application tier, and data tier. So the two things we need to understand. When you create your Pega applications, Pega installs the jar files into the work schema. That's where the Pega stores all the information. Pega is very highly database dependent system. That is where it is currently a non-native cloud-based application. That's one of the drawback of Pega to be saying at native cloud-based application, because it's currently huge database dependent. But to overcome that, Pega supports high availability and like quinzing mechanism that you bring down one node at a time and do that, so that the deployment becomes easy and people do not feel downtime when there is an upgrade and maintenance is happening. So, but yeah, it's not a non-native cloud solution for now. If someone asks you about it. So how Pega stores its information in database, it stores the information in a blob column. The blob is encrypted by Pega following their encryption algorithm. And that is the way it provides you a support of one level of security in its application. And for those things, Pega provides an add-on product called Bix to extract the information from the Pega binary to be used by the other systems, be it for reporting or for any other processing. So that's bring us about how the database structures work in Pega. This is something you should now try to understand and learn and try to use it in your applications too. The main aspect is 7 and 8, but to give you an idea about how this evaluation journey happens and what does each really means. People who have started their journey like me in 6.x version, we used to have only single stool schema. With this, there was a problem. That means whenever there is an upgrade happens for our application, we used to always need to take a database backup. Pega upgrades happen. We will then check if, and based on the upgrades, our exposed tables of any native tables might got have changed. We need to again do a retrofit, and that was a huge burden on the application side. And for those reasons, people never want to upgrade the system. But Pega realized that, okay, and then what they did is when 7.x version was released, they did split schema. The concept was called split schema. Uh, in the initial 7.x release, they released two schemas. One is called rule schema, another is called data schema, which is how it is till now. Rule schema is owned by Pega. That means Pega, when you install a Pega, the majority of the files are stored in rule schema. Whereas whenever you create an application and you create your own classes, these are stored in data schema. The benefit of this was if Pega wants to upgrade its rules, like its application from 7.1 to 2 or 3, that when they are bringing their patches, it will just run on the rule schema, and there will be less overburden and less impact on the application. And so application upgrades will become much more faster and simpler. In 7.3.7.4, somewhere they realized that there is one other option you can choose, which is when they brought customer data schema. Pega data and customer data schema has two differentiation. Whenever you create a table in a Pega data schema, it do have PZ-INSK as well as PVPZ stream. Whereas if you create a customer data, if you create tables or any information in customer data schema, it's just store all the information in a flat tables, which do not contains any of the Pega OTP properties. And that's the main aspects they started giving. These three schema as the initial schemas for when an application gets loaded. So with the benefit of customer data schema in 7.4, when they brought this, people started leveraging and doing external data mapping with this schema, which makes same thing, which makes application upgrades much more easy and simpler. Then later they realized that there is one other option. There was a problem with customer data. Point was when you do a reporting and other things, because you either needs to still expose the information in the columns, or you will create a duplicate tables in the customer data or Pega data when you are running reports. So in order to avoid that, they brought another option, which is called Pega data reporting. It's another schema dedicated to your reporting needs. So if you want to run reports within Pega, you now have two options. You can publish all your information as a flat table in reporting schema, and then you can run reports just on your reporting data schema. So if there are tables created for this, you can just map this to your reporting. The benefit of reporting data schema is you can now bring data from external systems, dump it into Pega, and then build the dashboard, charts, everything in Pega, and just show your end users within Pega all these reporting UI. So when you're bringing this information into, keeping it into a Pega data reporting gives you much more benefits. That its name itself says this all information is just for reporting purpose and nothing more. And this does a segregation of your information too. So rules owned by Pega. Pega data, customer data is for your work application. Reporting data schema just for reporting. So even though now you do a data duplicacy in your same database, but you will have a better performance. So this is the benefit you get when you use Pega data reporting. Yep. This brings us to one main aspects about how we do an application development in Pega. You might have heard about what is situation K-Clear. Whenever you start Pega application, you talk to people. This is the main thing people will ask you about. And people are more interested about this. Situation K-Clear is the development approach in Pega, which is similar and non-similar than in a Java-based application. But in terms of similarity is how your organization application development works. So how does the packaging work? So if you see any Java applications, you always see that com dot, then organization name. That, like, let's say if you see Oracle product, you will see that com dot Oracle dot, or like normal Java, then com dot Oracle. Now they say com dot Oracle dot sun, com dot Oracle dot Java, any lang class or other classes. So even in Java, the class and packages are defined in the same order how Pega defines its situation K clear, but it's just a way how Pega says about it. Situation K clear is a trademark to Pega, and it's just way of modeling. So whereas when you do a normal Java based application and you see the package, you understand that's a collection of objects and classes doing the same common stuff uh, from the functional perspectives. Whereas in situation K clear, we are more focused only about the models, which is just the data objects. We don't care about, we should not uh, do the UI design in the situation. Like when you want to do a situation K clear and reusing stuff, you should more focus only at the data models, not the UI. That's the common essence and how you should design your application. So it's a common example. How does it work? So you have a base Pega application. On top of that, you always build an enterprise application, which is your core organization application, which contains common integrations, your basic organizational structure, your reusable workflows, authentication, and basic things. Uh, on top of that, in this example, they started building the specialization. So you have specialization for North America or Europe. You do then more specializations on top of that. So if you want to see that the reuse aspect, so your enterprise layer is a common, which will be reused across your application. And you will see about how this, when we build a new application, how this situation K clear comes into picture, um, and how we do the specialization. So yeah, so then you define more division based, and then you can define more unit based and those things. So that's how the situation K clear works. The benefit of this is you can put more reusable stuff downstream, and then you just do a customization at the specialized layer. So the Pega approach, as I mentioned, in the normal Java-based applications, the package name structures define how the entire package works. But for the Pega platform, the situation K clear is just defining the model approach. So you should not focus on anything except your model design, designing your model in the enterprise wide, like enterprise class structure definition, or defining it in the situation, like, or coin like another terms of situation KK. Like you should only focus on designing the models, nothing more in terms of your reusability. The other things with when you are building a new application is if you know about Pega Express, which is how now people thinks and like how Pega talks about it. When you are building, so build your application small and then build your application on top of each other, like on top of not each other, like on top of one another. Do one functionality at a time, do a micro journey, complete one small process. So as part of the development approach, there's a 3-pillar approach of Pega, which is micro journeys, persona and channels, data and interface. Micro journeys do one process at a time. This makes it much more easy to deliver something, deliver an outcome to the business, because business outcomes is the primary aspects of building an application. Define your persona and channels. This is something which is very much coined towards App Studio based of development. Personas are nothing but like your access groups. Why Pega is pushing towards understanding personas is because when you are doing an application via App Studio, which is what they are pushing, I'll explain you about what benefits you get when you do via App Studio too. It reduces your code generation. It makes it much more easy when you are just configuring things there. So persona is nothing but just access group, and it gives you much more benefits there, because with Persona you can then set pages and other aspects in one simple way, and you can set all configurations. Um, Channels are nothing but how your application will be accessed, be it web portal, mobile apps, or via API. So these are these for channel referencing. Data and interface. This is something which you should focus more on when you are building, and you should ask questions about when you're designing this. Because if your data models are not designed properly, you will have a lot of problems in your workflow design, and your workflow will be not scalable, and you will miss the point of build for change, which is what Pega says. But if you design your data model properly, it will work much more easy. Pega do supports the standardized interface approach, which allows us to create the attributes in Pega. Like for REST data, you can use either JSON based or OData based approach. You can just pass the API, create your rules properly through App Studio, and it reduces your effort, and it does streamline your application design much more easily. So while you're doing your development, these three pillars, or these three things, you should always ask your business, what are you trying to achieve, which is nothing but your micro journey. Who are your consumers, who will be accessing it, how they will be accessing it, and what data objects are required for this, how these data objects will be displayed, on how these information will be retrieved or uh, published, or like will be passed to the database. These three questions or three understanding, if you have for any small use case, well, use case by use case, if you ask these questions properly to your business architects, stakeholders, your other people, it will make your life easy while you are developing the application. So in terms of when you're designing your application, this is the main other aspects, how you design it. So generally, if you have less experience, you don't get the chance of designing the data model. But when you are seeing your application, you can understand how it is done. So how the application, when you build an application, when you start building an application, how it does. You have a Pega platform, you will have the organization. Depending on organizations to organizations, some organizations do have their own design systems and other aspects to use, and they will bring their common technical assets. So you put all those information in at the organization layer. Framework layer. So there is two aspects of framework layer. One can be you're leveraging a Pega frameworks. You're on top of that, you're building your applications, or you may have a framework-based application. It is not framework FW layer of building an application, which I want to explain, say about it. The alternate way is like you have a small common case type application, which acts as a framework application. It's not a framework application, but it can act as a framework. It's a common application, common things which is done as part of a common application. There's two ways of understanding framework layer in it. Also to do it. So one way of understanding is components, and another is just a base application. So framework layer can be then now defined as three things. When you build on top of framework layer, like in CRM, if you are using any like industry-wide solutions, which is framework solutions. You can also build an application as a like whenever you create an organization, you will always have an FW, which is a framework layer. The framework layer of designing an application means you build a case type in the framework layer, and then you try to extend that into your implementation layer, which is another way of doing it. The third way of doing it is, which is still termed as a framework layer, but it is not act as a framework. It is a base application. So consider a scenario. You may have some case types which will be common across multiple applications. So you build an application, let's say registration. So registration is a very generic and a common application. You do in your system. You build one application called registration. You create a case type registration, and you define everything there. Whenever you build a new application, you can build that on top of registration. That allows all the new application to leverage the registration case type in it and then do it. That's also framework way of doing it, but uh, it is sometimes like people who have older like older experience, or like not as older experience, but coming from 6.x or 7.x, they use will call it as framework, but it is not the framework how Pega coins the word framework, but it is common technical components which is doing the same thing. And then on top of it, you build your implementation layer. So this is one way. This is something now Pega is again pushing, which is now called common application. I'll talk to you about when in the next sessions with the new design of Constellation, which Pega is bringing, how they are saying about building this common application. So this brings us to the main other aspects of when you're building a new application, which is enterprise class structure. We'll talk about this, I think, once again, to have 3 more slides, I think. Post this, I will stop because after understanding the enterprise class structure, it's better to start doing the application. So what is enterprise class structure? The enterprise class, we're talking about how the hierarchical structures and all those things. So that's how, in order to do and understand how the implementation of the diagrams work, Pega call it as enterprise class structure. When you're building an application, you need to understand the enterprise class structure, how it looks. So enterprise class structure is divided into 5 major things: organization, division, department, unit, and role. When you're building an application, you will always see 3 layers, which is organization, division, and department. Divisions can be subdivided as part of organization of your divisions, and that is what departments are called. The department and role, which is a subset of unit, is majorly part of your operator setting. So at your operator setting, you see also you have organization, div, and unit needs to be defined. And in those aspects, this model of is being called. Whereas whenever you see your app class structure in the App Explorer, you will always see organization, division, or unit. So, but in your aspects, you need to understand that there are 5 components in it. I have explained about them. What is a department is the division, unit is a department, and a role is part of unit. Other aspects of enterprise class structure needs to be understanding is about hierarchical reporting. You need to know about how the operating structure of the team company works. And that is where also you need to make sure that you define as part of your class structure. This allows you can leverage few of the features of Pega to send notification and other things. So at part of department, you can set a department manager, and then you can send emails, you can reassign cases to department manager, and those things you can do with the reporting structure. Then if you create a department and you are if you're using it. You also have access control. With RBAC, you define who has access to what rules in the system. This also helps you to define how the workflow will work. So when there are multiple teams or multiple departments working in the same application, how do you make sure that a particular case type can be only accessed by one particular team? How can this be accessed by separate teams? And that also you can manage within the same class structure definition. This is one other aspects to understand. The Pega class structure is very much similar to Java structure. And if you have a Java background, you can better understand how Pega talks about its enterprise class structure and its relationship mapping. Coming from a Java background, you can understand how you can leverage the inheritance and polymorphism. In Java, you achieve that configuration, that features with enterprise class structure in Pega. That's the main common aspect. The similarities, like they both follow the hierarchical model. Both allows you to use inheritance and relationship. Both allows you the polymorphism. The difference of Pega enterprise class structure to Java is Java is more hierarchical in nature, and they follow. It's a general concept. It's a general way of doing things. Whereas with Pega, it is not. It is the model structure and the reusability aspects of it. It's just to define the model, how and where you can get these attributes. Whereas when you are using, when you create a hierarchical order of classes in Java, they do not need to be defined in that manner. You get these information in it. So the Pega ECS is only used to design the model, whereas Java is more hierarchical and a general way of doing the design. Pega ECS is used to define the organizational structure of the company, whereas in Java, you can use this throughout the system for any of the purposes. You can define, whereas when you use Pega with ECS, it's very hierarchical. The hierarchical structure is the organizational structure of the company, which is not in the case of Java. Always. This is one other example. I think we can walk through this when you are building an application to understand more about it. This brings us to very main thing. So when you are building an enterprise structure, enterprise class structure, you always have the org class inheriting it from work dash and work dash cover dash. Understand this, why Pega does this way, why it is not defined it to call it from data dash. It is done because it allows the organization to even provides the case management capabilities. So when you create objects in org dash class, you can still leverage the case management capabilities. And so org dash class are always inherited from either work dash or work dash cover dash. For always an org rule set, the org int rule set is set as a dependent rule set by rule set based validation. You can change it to application validation, it's fine. But by default, Pega always set it as rule set based validation for an org rule set, making this that any organizational level integrations you are doing, these are always available at the org rule set to configure and provide it to the application. So these are the two main things. When you create a new application, you will always see in the configuration aspects. This brings us to the last topic. How does Pega allows you to build application, which is Pega allows you to build application in two different ways. One way is you can reuse an existing application when you're building it. What with this benefits allows you to build on top of a case types, and you can leverage those case types and data types. You can also build an application as built from scratch, which allows you to build a standalone application from. Because you're building from scratch, Pega still provides you with two options, which is how the UI structure, which allows Pega to build the design system for you, which is Constellation or traditional UI. What it does, it sets these design systems. If you use Constellation, it builds your application using the new Constellation architecture, which sets the UI and other UI components, UI libraries, which is aligned to the Constellation. If you build your application on traditional UI, it sets your application architecture and the design system leveraging the traditional UI. Both has its own way of rendering the data on UI. Both has a different way of storing the information in the database itself. So both Constellation and Theme Cosmos, which is traditional UI, are the front-end libraries, how Pega builds your UI. So improve data visibility, enhance case processing, customizing columns, focus on relevant data, ability to instant. These all are just the points which the application design system allows you. You can read about design systems, so not just about Pega. In terms, you can search about front-end design systems. You can example is Adobe has one front-end design system. Swift has one other, like iOS mobile has Swift design system. Then you will understand how Pega is talking about Constellation in its design system. So there are there's a SAP, which SAP also has its own UI design system. So if you read about these design system, and front end majorly like front end design systems from Adobe, Swift, maybe or iOS or SAP. You will understand what is Constellation is trying to do within Pega context. So how Pega is trying to build its own design system, how it allows people to connect to these, like how the data objects are created, how they are rendered on the UI, and how they are talking. Yeah. So design systems allows uh, application to be built much more faster because it provides a library of patterns which you are just configuring it, and that pattern renders the UI on the front end. Yeah. So this brings us to the last note. I just want to share about the, so as part of, okay, I think
And before this, Gaurav, so can you explain the project, like what we are going to?
yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I want to bring that. Let me stop this presentation. Okay, so let me, yep. So as part of this, this is one such application we will be building. Yeah, I'm not sure. So this was my old Pega Academy university program application. I found it to be very interesting. So when I was reading about it, talks about majority of the things which we do generally as part of your development application, and you can touch many aspects in it. So this is something we will be building in Constellation. With this, as I mentioned, that not everything can be added as part of this application. So you'll do some mini exercise outside this application uh, to learn those concepts. So this is a very simple example. There's an organization called Fast Laundry, which is a startup in Hyderabad. They started a laundry service. They provide services for door-to-door pickup. Their services includes washing, ironing, dry cleaning, and draining. They offer an express delivery. That means within 12 hours, some of these services are available for customers. To leverage on this, the actors in this is customer who is trying to access their application. He may be use the system as a guest user or may be used as a member after registering. Then there are other sets of people: pickup assistant, delivery assistant, draining specialist, dry cleaning specialist, ironing, washing, scratching, laundry administrator. So these are the other set of actors in the application. So this is where we can see about how we will leverage personas, how we will set the permissions and access and routings and those things. Uh, so what is this application is doing? This application primarily focusing about people who wants to leverage the service. So you can leverage the service without registering. You can do a guest login to fill these, to request the service, or you may request to create an account store. So we'll see how we will do guest authentication and then try to build an operator and then allow him to log in and use it. Then the other is service request. This allows you to request for an order. Uh, After the order has been placed, there is payment has been taken. So you take 50% payment in advance, 50% at the end. How this should be displayed to the user, how this will get changed. There's concept about like GST, which is 4%, how you can make it as dynamic and allow people to leverage and make the changes on like in runtime. And then there is another case type called track request, which allows the person to check against how many orders he have published and how to see what was the past statuses about them. Uh, it's more in detail here. I'll share about this document too with you all, so you can read through about it. Uh, and then when we are building, if you have specific questions about it, we will uh, talk about and we will see how we can do other aspects while we are doing these some specific topics in it, because not everything can be covered in this particular exercise. So we'll do some standalone exercises too for some scenarios. uh, Yeah, so we will use SLA and other aspects too. Yeah, this is the base application we will be building in it. Yeah, we will have some UI components. We will have the necessary organizational structure, since they have mentioned about it. So this is how the organization structure will look like. They have defined upon the application, the department roles and operators. This is something we will be doing it. Yeah. Do anyone have any questions?
Hello, Laura.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you say, there are two approaches which we are going to learn, like Constellation and apart from this, our normal theme UI, which we are earlier we are using Pega.
Yes.
In Constellation, are we going to use any business logic, or means while doing the means we are, when we are approaching for a Constellation?
Okay. So Constellation is not changing your business design. So Constellation is just changing how you build the UI. Uh, that's the only difference with Constellation versus traditional UI. Your business outcomes doesn't change. Your all business configuration and other things also do not change. What changes is how you store your information in database. How do you display it on the UI? That's the major change will come when you are building your application on Constellation. Constellation do supports you all your decision rules, all your data transforms, everything is available. The main aspects it's changing is how you represent the value on the UI.
Okay, but in our case, actually, we are using some Pega's framework applications. Means we build our application on a framework. So
Yeah.
it's does any impact on means like sometimes what happen, framework give static layout, like see
Yes.
means
Yes.
any harness or sections which we need to keep like that only.
Yes.
But when we applied the Constellation, does maybe means that the approach is good, or we need to go ahead with only existing approach which was given by framework?
Yeah, so even with frameworks, Pega is bringing Constellation specific portals. So how your portals are currently provided. So let's take there are few products where Pega did not have a Constellation version. So like one
Mhm.
example is Smart Dispute. If you have application built on Smart Dispute do not have Constellation. So since it
Exactly.
does not have a Constellation, you should use theme Cosmos
Exactly.
as your current approach. Once Pega releases the Constellation version of the framework, you can then think of leveraging that uh, in that aspect. But
But but
what?
but 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 sorry for interrupting. But like as you say, smart dispute. As we are also using same application framework in my organization. Okay, but when we are doing some UI UX changes at our application level, so we have to follow our company's some blueprints things.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So in
Yes.
that case, how that constellation will get to work?
How Constellation? Okay, there is a concept called blended UI, but that is not that I will say widely used. Uh,
Mhm.
I myself has not used, so I'll not recommend to do that. If your current framework, so what if you ask me, if your current framework is built on Theme Cosmos, build your customization as per for your blueprint in Theme Cosmos because
Mhm.
uh, the support of your portals is till theme cosmos because with let's say your theme cosmos is built on sections and other which is still relying on the jQuery and handlebar to renders the UI like dynamically how it is generating,
Okay.
whereas Constellation runs on React components.
Yeah, the background is a React only. Yes.
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 So the design of rendering those objects like React viewer, the virtual DOMs, and all those things is not available on the jQuery aspects, which is not available. So if you build Constellation components, what you need to do is you need to use the Constellation portal, and then you can leverage Constellation and Theme Cosmos. But the reverse doesn't work. So if you have a Theme Cosmos harness, you cannot render the constellation as a constellation. It will render it as Theme Cosmos. But if you have a constellation application, then you can render constellation as well as Theme Cosmos. So that
Okay.
is the thing. Yeah. So if you have a constellation application, that will allow
So
you to do.
you mean to say from a higher version to lower version is possible, but from the lower version to higher version is not possible.
Yeah, it is. I will not. It is not as not possible, but you have to do a lot of customization in that, because if you go to UI gallery now, also in Theme Cosmos, Pega allows you to bring React libraries. Okay, it do
Okay.
allows you. It do allows you. But what is the drawback of that is you will have all those as custom controls created, and you will write all the control files, like all the code in the text
Mhm.
files. Yeah, and those custom controls are not supported by Pega. And then if there is any vulnerabilities happening or anything, like when you do a code scan via,
Okay.
like be it via rule security analyzer, or if you are
Mm-hmm.
based on your organization doing some code like static code analysis, that will
Mm-hmm.
be an overburden on your team, your development team.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But once your framework has a constellation support, then at
Mm-hmm.
least you will not have the challenges on the React libraries or any other dependent libraries. So then you will be just focused on creating those components.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Mm.
Any more questions?
Yeah. So in CI/CD part, like you have mentioned in the curriculum,
Yeah.
so we'll be doing like practically, right, like deployment manager.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll create a merge pipeline. We will do branch-based deployment and branch and merge, because I only have one environment. So I can only do branch and branch merge. I can also do unit test. That's the only thing.
Yeah. There will be multiple environments, right, like staging and dev, and uh, how will we knowing that like it's moved to another stage, or if I,
How it will? Okay. Uh, that I will not be able to do it on my from my system. I will try if it is possible. But as part of your configuration, I'll explain you how what you just need to configure. But from your branch to merge to unit test and deploy. This part for your single application, like single environment, this is something we will touch about it.
So basically, we are not going to look into this orchestration and uh, uh, the the higher environment, right?
Yeah, we will not. We will not be, because I will be using my uh, Linux box. So I'll not be able to deploy it to another environment. I will not. Yeah, I'll try. If I
Another
need
thing,
to.
Gaurav, how it is going to be like an interactive. See, if you don't, please don't mind. Like it was
Mhm.
in throughout the. It was the first session, of course, and it was introduction part. But how it is going to be interactive and how it will be the daily uh, schedule and what is your approach for going for upcoming 60 hours.
Yeah. I missed about that part also. Yeah, true. So I didn't ask you all about how is your all experience. So I wanted to give first 2 days about theoretical, about what is the base Pega architecture and other things. From day three, we'll be more focused on building the application and talking about those concepts, why we are doing in that. It will be pure practical. less. Yeah, less.
So will be having some assignment or like same thing we need to replicate what you are doing?
Some things I will touch upon, which is this application I'll build with you all. Then there are few mini exercises which I mentioned. That is something I'll give you all to work on.
Yeah, another question regarding the OAuth implementations, like token based, and what is trust tokens, trust stores.
Yes.
So these will be implemented, right? Like practically.
Yes. These will be done practically. Yeah.
Okay, so we have vendors like Okta. We have like OpenAMs.
Yeah, we'll do it with OpenAM.
Open. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and Kafka wise, so Pega is trying to do like decentralized Kafka to an extent source. So
yes.
So are we using Kafka also for just to implement, so just to see the implementation, how it works? Yes.
Okay. I have not added that, but I will explain that. I will keep a note on that.
Yeah.
Gaurav, last question actually from my side, Gaurav.
Yeah.
Means in practically once we finish this course, so how much we are means compatible with real times projects in our organizations, means is compatibility with work or real times, like suppose as you say auth code and other things we are implementing in our organization. So
Yeah.
are we are going to 100% compatible, or or like that is my question. Because from my end, I'm just I'm having around more than 14 years experience, but in Pega I just recently joined, around 2.5 years only. So I'm just uh, I'm just still learner, but from
Okay. Yeah. So for your authentication aspects and other configuration things, which will be same if you do it in your organizations, uh, some places it might change. So like the IDP setups, each organization will have different way of integrating it. But
today only
for
I've
the
done
Pega,
IDB certification, IDB configuration. Because of that, from my external system, that certification was changed. So we imported it today in our organization. So today only
yeah.
I did.
So some of the things and also like certificate management. So certificates you still need to create outside Pega. You just then import it into Pega and store. So those things are still outside Pega, like creating trust store is still outside Pega. You just configure it and then use it. As part of your like let's say if I'm giving an example with OpenAM to do your authentication and authorization aspects, and if you are using Okta, the principles do not get changed. The approach will still be same. Also, the configuration within Pega will not change. It's just you are moving from OpenAM to some other identity, be it like there was CA, Computer Associates product, or something else.
Yeah, yeah,
But
got
for
it.
Pega,
But
yeah,
no,
for
but
Pega perspectives, it will not get changed.
no, my question is like that. Means after completion of this course, how much we are confident about the towards the Pega advanced level? So that is my only question.
You will be able to deliver those things. That much I can guarantee.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So let's say because that's why I'm saying there are still nuances to that. But I will walk you through about all those points because let's say at some places, I'll give you an example. When I worked in like some projects, they went with model approach, which is also one of the configuration. So we'll touch
Mhm.
about how the model works. And in some, you go with like you get roles information. So you do not do a mapping. You just get the information and you just do the login. So you have option like multiple options, We'll do it with one approach and talk to you about the other approaches. That's the only change. But if you try and do the exercise, you will be able to deliver it. That's not the problem I see in that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. Give these sessions 5 to days class. Like if you have any points to ask or you want to understand, uh, do put them. If we are not able to like discuss in the particular class, I'll share about those topics in that sense. Uh, mm, yeah, and we can discuss them. It's not like fixed like 60 hours. So, like this is something I want you all to take it as your learning, which should make you feel better to deliver your projects. Yeah, it's not just I'll just go through this course and then just be end. Uh, it will be more as an interactive session for you all to understand. Yeah.
And Gaurav, one last question from Shivareddy.
Yeah.
Shivareddy, you're saying something, right?
Yeah, can you hear me now, Gaurav?
Yeah.
Gaurav, we don't have a integration systems in this project, right? So how you going to deal with that? Like we are going to build an application and all, right? For a
Yes.
practical experience.
Yeah. So let's say to get some informations via Faker. So there are a few APIs you can. That's why I'm saying. So not everything will be part of this application. Like because this is just one sample application to start your journey. So like your auth authentication will be outside. How you can use that to do it. Where one example is via authentication in guest login. We are using anonymous service, and then we will talk about the other way of connecting it to the system. That's one way of authenticating to get data. So let's say I'm doing a REST based authentication and I want to get informations from other system to here. So there are a few open APIs which we will leverage and build those integration aspects to touch about those concepts. If you get that point. So like one such example is like if I want to get employee data into my system. There is an API called Faker. So you can use Faker API to get how many employee data you want to dump it into Pega. So like build it as a REST API and then dump that into. So you understand how do you do REST-based integration, get the information, show it, persist it, or you want to directly dump it. Those are the use cases we will build when we are talking about those topics.
Okay. So which will cover both SOAP and REST integrations as well, right? Because of some endpoint URL it is required, some open AIs having some data.
Yes. SOAP I need to check. REST mostly are available. SOAP I will see if I can find any open APIs to consume, or I will build my own. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one last question. So, a big process, will you be doing practically, right? Like, is it?
Yeah, Bixby will do. Yeah, Bixby will do.
Okay. It's a multi-node environment, or we're doing only on one node specific?
One node. Yeah, one node.
Yeah, you mentioned VirtualBox, right?
Yes.
So, are you deploying Pega into the VirtualBox, and we can have multiple VirtualBox? I mean, like multiple machines, right? Like we can connect them. I'm just
Yes.
I'm just asking that. Can we do it right? Like in the VirtualBox, we can create multiple VMs and then connect
Correct.
those, and
Correct.
do it right.
My machine is 8 GB.
Sorry.
My machine is 8 GB. If I start to
Oh,
Pega install, it will stop. Yeah, that's the main thing. But I like for Bix, you do not need multi-node environment. If you want to look for CI/CD, that's the only thing I think you want to try. I will see if from my dev we will try any academy instance and try to do a connectivity if that works.
sure. I have
Yeah.
like 16 GB of RAM in my computer. I have VMs like VMware. So can we try
Yeah.
this? I'll install it today.
Yeah, yeah.
Going
Yeah.
forward, we'll try to connect multiple VMs together.
Yeah. Means if
Yeah.
true. That's one option. And if from one of the academy servers I'm able to connect, like because the URL is publicly accessible, we will try that. I've not tried, so I'm not saying that will work. But as part of CI/CD, if you're looking that you want to publish it to staging server, we will use any of the academy class of 23 version. Let's check if we are able to connect to it, because they do have a API available. It should allow us to connect. We will use basic authentication, a wrong bad way, but we should be able to connect. That's one way I will try. I have not yet tried, but yeah, we will try about it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, Garo. So we better to wrap the call so we can continue the further questions tomorrow.
Yes.
It's already late, right? So,
Yeah. Thank you all. Let's talk tomorrow.
Yeah. Thanks, bro. Yeah.
thanks everyone for joining.